This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Be careful, this man is not simple. Shut up. The martial emperor at the peak shouted angrily when he saw the nonchalant looks on the crowd's faces. However, he suddenly realized that everyone had quieted down. What's going on? A question mark appeared in his mind as he saw more than a dozen people standing there obediently, not moving at all. He looked over in horror, and his pupils shrank. All he saw was darkness around him, and there was only a bright red moon hanging high in the sky. He gradually lost consciousness. What? Wang Jin, who was sitting there, suddenly let out a soft sound of surprise, as if he had sensed that something was wrong. The peak martial emperor suddenly turned around, and with a loud shout, he unsheathed his long sword and stabbed it toward Wang Jin with all his might. What? You? Wang Jin's heart jolted, not knowing what was going on. All of a sudden, not only the peak martial emperor, but the dozen or so martial artists who had been standing still suddenly attacked at the same time. They turned around and surrounded him. What's going on? This time, Wang Jin was completely dumbfounded. However, in the blink of an eye, he discovered that everyone's eyes were empty and lifeless, as if only a shell was moving, and they were completely unafraid of death as they displayed their ultimate techniques. Young master, they've been controlled by an illusion. Only the two martial supreme elders behind him were shocked. The two of them protected Wang Jin's side. The power of two domains spread out and stacked together, instantly suppressing the power of more than 10 people. More than a dozen people stopped one after another. Under the power of the domain, it was difficult to resist, and they were suppressed to their knees. They no longer had any consciousness and were completely submissive to power. Although they were still resisting tenaciously, they could no longer move. Wang Jin's eyes flashed with a trace of anger as he shouted, "A bunch of trash, kill them all." This? One of the old men revealed a shocked expression and said, "Young master, they are." "Kill them all," Wang Jin said coldly, "cut the crap. What's the use of keeping such a useless piece of trash, to be controlled by someone else without knowing it?" The two old men looked at each other and saw the helplessness and coldness in each other's eyes. However, the Miao Xuan sect had always been like this, and Wang Jin killed people like grass. The two of them did not dare to disobey. Looking at these fellow disciples who stayed with them all day long, they sighed in their hearts and immediately killed them. The martial artists who were controlled by Yunxiao's invisible mind were all martial emperors, and they had been suppressed by the power of the domain. How could they resist the slaughter of the two martial venerables? In an instant, the inn was stained with blood, and all of them were killed. The thick smell of blood spread out, as if it was a slaughterhouse. Mei Dong's face turned pale as she watched. She couldn't help but want to vomit. The cruelty of this demon's methods made her hair stand on end. He was actually so vicious to his own people. If she were to fall into his hands, the consequences would be unimaginable. She had already decided in her heart that if she fell into this person's hands, she would kill herself at the first moment. Wang Jin raised his cold head and stared at Yunxiao as he said coldly, "What other methods do you have now? Show me all of them and let me experience them." Yunxiao's eyes gradually regained their clarity. At the same time, controlling so many martial emperors had greatly hurt him. However, Wang Jin's cruelty was beyond his expectations. He chuckled and said, "It seems like the mysterious sect has been developing well these past few years. They abandoned so many powerful subordinates just like that. Their deaths were all because of you," Wang Jin said coldly. "You're the one who caused their deaths. I'm going to avenge them. Also, I'll make you regret being born in this world for my brother's death." "Don't be so bored," Yunxiao said. "Can you not be so boring? You're the one who killed your men. As for your brother, he's looking for death. You're the one who's looking for death." Wang Jin finally flew into a rage. Although he didn't have any feelings for this younger brother and had always looked down on him, they were still of the same bloodline. He was his biological younger brother, so he was still angry. But what made him even angrier was that Yunxiao had forced him to kill so many of his men. He was immediately disgraced, which was the reason why he wanted to kill Yunxiao the most at this moment. Flying smoke hand with a thought. Several streams of energy gushed out from his hands and wrapped around his hands like ribbons. The strong wind pressed down on the surrounding space, making it solid and constantly solidifying. Not only did he want to kill Yunxiao, but he also wanted to torture him to death with his own hands. As for Mei Dong, he had already arranged for her to be a little reward for killing Yunxiao and avenging his brother. That appearance was indeed very cute. He would use it a few times first and then slowly torture it. Yunxiao laughed. I'm a newbie. I don't know any better. If I offend you in any way, you can King come and hit me. He unsheathed the northern heaven cold star sword, and a cold light flowed like autumn water. At this moment, his arm turned pale gold, and with a great force of 10,000 jin, he stabbed out in the air. Shua shua. The long sword struck the air, making a violent collision sound. Green lotuses appeared on the sword and bloomed one by one. Humph, the light of a grain. Wang Jin snorted coldly as he clenched his fists and spun them. The air around him vibrated against Yunxiao's sword like gears, destroying the green lotuses one by one and darkening the restaurant. Yunxiao chuckled, and his movements were as smooth as flowing water. After the sword was knocked back by the opponent, he immediately stepped into a strange pace to dissipate the force, and at the same time, he thrust the sword out with a cold gleam, aiming for the opponent's throat. Wang Jun's face revealed a shocked expression. The other party was a mere martial arts grandmaster, but he was actually able to withstand his moves as if nothing had happened. Usually, a martial arts grandmaster would be killed in one move. It was only because he felt that it was a little strange that he could control so many of his subordinates that he personally took action. In the blink of an eye, the two had fought several rounds. The more they fought, the angrier Wang Jin became. He had a feeling that he could crush Yunxiao with just a little more strength, but no matter how much he increased his strength, he could only maintain the status quo. He felt that Yunxiao was like a roly-poly toy, and he could not suppress him no matter what. Young master. The two old men behind him were shocked and wanted to step forward to help. Don't come near me, I want to kill him with my own hands. The two of them practiced cultivation techniques in the restaurant for half a cup of tea's worth of time. Yunxiao only defended and did not attack, making Wang Jin go crazy and roar repeatedly. This made Wang Jin very irritable and angry. He was a martial honor, and even if there were 100 existences with the strength of Yunxiao, he should have killed them all long ago. The two old martial venerables were greatly shocked when they saw Yunxiao's endless means. The golden light on his body seems to be some kind of extremely powerful physical technique. Where have I seen it before? Do you have any impression of it? You're not talking about the tyrant martial sovereign's indestructible body, are you? I can't believe you came up with this. In fact, you have the same thoughts as me. You just don't dare to admit it. A swan and I does look like one, but it's impossible for it to have an indestructible golden body. Otherwise, how could the young master be safe and sound? And look at his teleportation steps from time to time, it's like the form displacement that great alchemists usually love to use. Could it be form displacement transposition? Don't be silly. You mean that a young man at the martial arts grandmaster level has the imperishable golden body technique and he can even change his position? Is there such a possibility? Otherwise, how could he block the young master's storm-like attacks? The elemental energy fluctuations on his body had not surpassed that of an 8-stars martial grandmaster. He had only been able to hold on until now by relying on the power of his physical body, his strange steps, and his profound martial arts techniques. Is this normal? Well, now that you've mentioned it, there's indeed a problem. The two martial venerables looked puzzled, and their expressions became more and more serious. We can't keep fighting like this. There are too many martial artists in Yufeng City right now. Although we, the Miao Xuan sect, are not afraid of stirring up trouble, there are already hundreds of people surrounding the restaurant to watch the show. Isn't that a little too undignified? Not bad. It's better to end it early, but the young master doesn't allow you and I to interfere. What should we do? Go and capture that little girl, in case she accidentally escapes. I'm going to take that ugly old woman's life. It's disgusting to look at. Okay. After the two of them assigned their tasks, they headed towards Granny Kuei and Mei Dong. Since Wang Jin didn't want them to get involved, they might as well do something since they had nothing to do. No, please let me go. Granny Kuei screamed in horror and was about to escape when a martial supreme pointed a finger at her. She instantly exploded in the air, leaving only ashes behind. The metal staff was bent from the explosion and stuck into the ground, shaking. Mei Dong was also shocked. However, how could she possibly escape from the hands of Wu Zun? She was instantly suppressed by the power of the domain and could not move at all, waiting to be slaughtered. Damn it! Yun Chao, who had been fighting with Wang Jin, finally changed his expression. With an angry roar, he teleported in the air and appeared in front of Mei Dong, thrusting his sword toward the martial supreme. Let this senior take care of you. The martial honor was stunned for a moment before he burst out laughing. With all his power gathered in his palm, the surrounding spiritual qi was almost completely absorbed by him. The entire restaurant was about to collapse. A hole had appeared in his palm and was starting to devour everything. Yun Chao opened his heavenly eyes, and the phoenix true flame condensed into a line and burned over. Black cracks appeared wherever the flame passed, melting the space directly. Magnet. The martial venerable was shocked. The key was that he was shocked by the power. The power coming from the flames made him feel terrified. He immediately retracted his palm energy and dodged to the side. After shooting out a stream of flame, Yun Chao immediately released Little King Kong, which was more than 2 meters long, to guard the two men. Wang Jin's expression turned serious as he said, "A martial supreme level puppet. You're from the Thousand Leaves sect?" The Thousand Leaves sect specialized in the art of mechanical puppets. It had always been a mysterious sect on the heavenly martial continent, but its strength could not be underestimated. It was said that the sect even had martial supreme level puppets. Yun Chao breathed a sigh of relief. The continuous teleportation and the phoenix fire just now had exhausted his soul power, and he would be too careless if he did not release the gourd Little King Kong. Just now, he had used his physical body to fight with Wang Jin alone for a long time. It was entirely to test the strength of his physical body. In the initial state of the imperishable golden body, he could almost fight with a 1-star martial supreme and be at a slight disadvantage. If Wang Jin knew that the other party had been using him as a trial all this time, who knew what he would think in his heart? The three of them stared at the gourd Little King Kong with a serious expression. They felt the aura fluctuating from the other party's body and felt uneasy. I originally wanted to play with you guys for a little longer. Since you guys don't cherish it, then the game ends here. Let's go. Yun Chao cried out. The Calabash King Kong suddenly stepped forward, and the aura of a martial supreme pressed down on him. Although it did not have the power of a domain, it was like an avalanche. Then, it punched out, shrouding the space under its power and threatening to break it at any time. Wang Jin and the other two were shocked. The power of this punch actually made it difficult for them to put up any resistance. The three of them were all low-level martial venerables, while the Calabash Little King Kong was a half-demon, half-weapon, which was enough to compete with the existence of a peak martial venerable. When this punch was thrown out, the surrounding space was distorted, and the entire restaurant was completely sucked into the fist light, turning into powder and scattering in the wind. Not good. Quickly run. Wang Jin finally panicked. The situation that had originally firmly suppressed the other party was suddenly reversed, and he instantly became a fugitive. The three of them shouted in horror and circulated their essence force to the peak. They worked together to open a spatial crack and flew away like the wind. 3 beams of light rushed out of the range of the gourd Little King Kong's palm wind and escaped. Although Mei Dong knew that the gourd Little King Kong could defeat the three of them, she was still stunned when she saw that the situation had changed with just one punch and that the three of them had fled. Since you've started playing, don't even think about leaving. With a thought, Yunxiao used the last bit of his soul power to teleport the calabash little King Kong to the front of the three men's line of escape. The huge figure blocked them and threw another punch. Don't. No. Wang Jin was shocked and shouted, I am the young master of the Miao Xuan sect. If you kill me, you will have no end of trouble. At this moment, the restaurant had been completely destroyed. A large number of martial artists gathered outside to listen to the sounds of fighting inside. Many people knew that the young master of the Miao Xuan sect was inside. They were all secretly guessing which family's lady was going to be in trouble, but they did not want to see the restaurant collapse. In the beginning, they thought that the three people who escaped were those unlucky fellows. They did not expect that after a cry of surprise, it was actually the young master of the Miao Xuan sect, Wang Jin. As for the burly man who teleported out, he looked like a demonic beast and did not have a human form at all. Young master, quickly use the spirit escape talisman. One of the martial supremes was shocked. He poured his origin power into his fists, and the powerful aura on his body rose. He blocked the gourd little King Kong's fist power with his own strength, buying Wang Jin some time. The other martial venerable also suddenly realized that it was impossible for everyone to survive in this situation. The only way was to sacrifice the soldiers to protect the commander. He also instantly exploded with his strongest power and shouted, Young master, run. The two of them loyally protected their master in the face of danger, causing everyone around them to look at them in a new light. However, they were also shocked in their hearts. Who actually dared to kill the young master of the Miao Xuan sect? And what was this thing that was neither human nor demon? After the initial shock, Wang Jin finally calmed down. However, he had never faced such a life-and-death situation before. He panicked for a moment because of the fear of death. After he calmed down, he immediately took out an ancient jade from his ring and quickly engraved a few spells into it. Yunxiao's pupils constricted when he saw this from a distance. Ancient spiritual talisman? And it's an escape talisman. His figure instantly turned into a ray of light as he rushed forward. He transmitted a message to Mei Dong, go back to the Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce's stronghold first. Miao Xuan is there to ensure your safety. I'll come after I kill this man. The moment Yunxiao rushed out, the punch from the Calabash King Kong finally broke the defense set up by the two martial venerables, blasting them into pieces, sending blood and flesh flying all over the sky. At this moment, Wang Jin also activated the ancient spiritual escape talisman in his hand. It turned into a flash of lightning and instantly flew 100 miles away, disappearing from everyone's sight. The effect of this escape talisman was actually the most powerful escape technique, the lightning escape, which could cover 100 miles in an instant. Yunxiao snorted coldly as he stepped on the aftermath of the explosion of the Vajra fist and chased after the light. The Calabash King Kong also rose into the sky and followed behind Yunxiao. What's going on? There's actually someone chasing after the young master of the Miao Xuan sect, Wang Jin, am I seeing things? Wow, I've really learned something new. What was the cultivation level of that demonic man just now? He killed two martial venerables with one punch. It was too terrifying. What's so strange about it? Wu Zun is only unattainable in front of you and me. In front of those true experts, they were just like ants. I don't think that young man's identity is simple. Of course, to dare to chase after the young master of the mysterious mystic sect on the street and have such a powerful subordinate, he must be the same as the mysterious mystic sect, a powerful force among the 10 great sects of the North region. This is big news. Could it be that the 10 great sects of the North region are going to have a chaotic battle? If that's the case, the entire continent will be shocked. Mei Dong's mind was in a mess as she listened to the discussions of the people around her. She thought that it was all her fault. Was she really a troublemaker and an inauspicious person? In her sadness, she hurriedly flew toward the Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce. Now, she could only ask Miao Xuan to come out and preside over the matter. If Yunxiao really killed Wang Jin, the consequences would be unimaginable. Yunxiao flew hundreds of miles away with the Calabash little King Kong. They were already some distance away from Yusa City and had entered an uninhabited desert. He looked around with a cold gaze and said, F***CKU, he actually escaped. Oh. Even if I use an escape talisman, it won't be easy to escape from your hands. The demonic dragon's voice was heard. He seemed to be in disbelief. Yunshao snorted. That guy must have other concealment techniques on him. After all, the strength of the Miao Xuan sect is not to be underestimated. As the young master, he must have a lot of treasures on him. That's true. Miao Xuan sect, you should be careful. This is no longer an ordinary sect. It's not something you can play with your current strength. The demonic dragon started to worry for him. Now that Wang Jin has escaped, he'll leave behind a hidden danger. You should be more careful in the north region. After all, there are too many experts, and you also have quite a few enemies. As soon as the dragon finished speaking, Yunshao suddenly frowned and focused his eyes. He suddenly pointed two of his fingers, and a sword ray shot out from his fingertips, pointing at the void hundreds of meters away. The space trembled wherever the sword ray passed by. Wang Jin's figure emerged from it with a shocked expression on his face, and he tried to escape in a hurry. Since you've revealed yourself, then stay here forever. The area outside of Yufeng City is barren, but it's also a good place to rest. The gourd little King Kong flew out from between his eyebrows, and the power of his fist directly suppressed the space in front of him. It flew through the air like a behemoth, covering the clouds and the sun, making Wang Jin's heart sink. You can't kill me. I'm really the young master of the Miao Xuan sect. If you kill me, you'll really die a horrible death. Wang Jin was terrified. He thought Yunshao did not believe his identity, or no one would dare to kill him. He took out a jade tablet and placed it in front of him. This jade token contains a wisp of my father's divine sense. If you force me, I'll break the jade token and you'll die. Although he was threatening, he seemed to be extremely afraid. This was indeed a protective jade tablet given to him by the leader of the Miao Xuan sect, Wang De. Even Wang De did not have it. It was also because this son was deeply loved by him, and he could save his life when necessary. However, there were also great hidden dangers in possessing a body with divine sense. If the first person to separate his divine sense consumed this wisp of divine sense, his mind would inevitably be implicated and his cultivation would be damaged. Wang Gong was the sect master of one of the top 10 sects in the north region. He was currently cultivating to reach the peak of the martial emperor realm with all his might, and he had once instructed Wang Jin not to use it unless it was a matter of life and death. Another reason was that this wisp of Wang Gong's divine sense was too powerful. If it were to possess a body, it would definitely leave behind endless disasters for the body, affecting its future progress. Therefore, unless he had no other choice, he did not want to use it at all, and he was also unwilling to use it. Oh. Go ahead, I'm waiting. If you don't do it now, you won't have the chance. Yunshao sneered, and the calabash little King Kong roared along with his laughter. Wang Jin was startled by the roar. He clenched his fist and the jade token shattered with a bang. Then, a purple light gradually rose from the jade token and condensed in the air. Then, an old man in a vermilion robe appeared in the purple light. His body flickered as he appeared in the air, his eyes fixed on the gourd warrior and Yunshao. Father, save me. When Wang Jin saw the old man, his heart trembled. Then, he hurriedly asked for help. It's Wang Gong? This wisp of spiritual sense is quite powerful. Yunshao was taken aback, but he immediately ordered the gourd to stop. He also jumped up and stood behind the gourd, waiting for the next move. In any case, Wang Jin was already a piece of fish on the anvil, and he couldn't escape. Oh. You also recognize our sect? Since that's the case, where did you get the courage to hurt my son? The wisp of divine sense's eyes burst out with anger and it shouted, why aren't you quickly kneeling down and admitting your mistake, and waiting for your punishment? Yunshao said. Why didn't I see that there was something wrong with your brain before? Wang Gong's divine will frowned and he said angrily, who are you? When have you seen me? He pondered for a moment, but there was no such person in his memory. With the strength of his spiritual sense, anyone who had seen him would never forget him. It's fine if you don't remember. Get out of my way, I still want to kill your son. If I don't know what's good for me and destroy your divine sense, I'm afraid your strength will be greatly reduced. Yunxiao said indifferently. What? Wang Gong almost thought that he had misheard. Even Wang Jin was stunned. Kid, what did you say? Wang Gong said angrily. His spiritual will that had taken form started to float in the air. As the leader of a sect and one of the 10 great sects of the North region, it had been many years since someone had dared to speak to him in such a manner. I told you to move, Yunxiao said coldly. When did your ears become so bad? Don't think that I'll be afraid of you just because you have a wisp of spiritual will here. The person I'm going to kill today, no one can save him unless you personally come.